In March 2025, a discovery made using synthetic aperture radar sent shockwaves through the archaeological community. Beneath the sands of Giza, beneath even the foundations of the pyramids, something was found. A structure, a network, a mystery that has slept in darkness for millennia, waiting to whisper its secrets to those who dare to listen. Picture the Great Pyramid rising against the endless blue of an Egyptian sky, its limestone blocks weathered by 4,500 years of wind and sun. For centuries, explorers have crawled through its narrow passages, measured its chambers, and mapped every known corridor. Napoleon's soldiers carved their names into ancient stone. Victorian archaeologists dragged massive stones from sacred chambers. Modern scientists have sent cosmic rays through the pyramid's heart, searching for hidden voids. Yet beneath this monument to human ambition, the Earth itself may hold chambers that dwarf anything we have ever imagined. The radar scans revealed something extraordinary. Deep below the familiar stones, deeper than any archaeologist has ever ventured, patterns emerged from the data like ancient dreams becoming real. Vertical shafts descending over 2,100 feet into the bedrock, chambers carved from living rock, their walls smooth and purposeful, each one large enough to hold a modern cathedral. Corridors that spiral downward like the memory of water flowing through time itself, connecting spaces that have known only darkness since the age of the pharaohs. The discovery team spoke of 8 separate shafts, each one plunging into the earth with mathematical precision. Helical staircases wound around these vertical passages like the genetic code of some ancient civilization, leading to cube-shaped chambers that pulse with geometric perfection on the radar screens. 80-meter-wide spaces carved with tools and techniques that remain beyond our understanding, even in an age of diamond-tipped drills and laser-guided precision. Could this be the long-rumored Hall of Records, that mythical repository of wisdom hidden by ancient hands? Or perhaps something even more profound, a complex that predates our understanding of human civilization itself? The discovery challenges everything we thought we knew about the builders of Giza, those mysterious architects who moved stones weighing 15 tons with the precision of watchmakers, who aligned their monuments to celestial bodies with accuracy that modern astronomers still struggle to achieve. As we descend into this story, imagine standing on the plateau at twilight, when the last light of day paints the pyramids gold, and the first stars begin their eternal dance overhead. The wind carries whispers of sand across stones that have watched the rise and fall of empires. The same stars that guided the ancient builders still wheel overhead, the same constellations that witnessed the birth of human civilization. What follows is an exploration into the deepest riddle Egypt has ever buried, a journey that begins with modern technology but leads us back to questions as old as human wonder itself. The ground beneath your feet may not be as solid as it seems. The limestone bedrock, formed from ancient seafloors when Egypt lay beneath primordial waters, may hide passages that connect not just chambers, but eras of human existence separated by thousands of years. The past may not be as distant as we believe, and the mysteries of Giza may be deeper, older, and more extraordinary than our wildest dreams have dared to imagine. In the darkness below, something waits, something patient, something that may change everything we thought we knew about who we are and where we came from. The story begins not with shovels and brushes, but with invisible waves penetrating the earth like whispers seeking hidden truths. Synthetic aperture radar, a technology born from the marriage of aviation and electronics, sends radio signals deep into the ground and listens for their echoes. In the hands of Professor Corrado Malanga and Filippo Biondi, this scientific instrument became a key to unlock doors that have remained sealed since the dawn of recorded history. The discovery team arrived at Giza on a morning when the desert wind carried the scent of ancient sand and the promise of revelation. They had come equipped with instruments that could see through solid rock, technology that would have seemed like magic to the pyramid builders, yet was grounded in the same mathematical principles that guided the construction of the monuments themselves. The synthetic aperture radar system they deployed was no larger than a briefcase, yet it possessed the power to illuminate secrets buried deeper than any human had ever ventured. Imagine the aircraft circling high above the Giza Plateau, its sensors reaching down through layers of sand and limestone like fingers of light exploring the darkness. The radar waves move at the speed of light, yet they carry with them the patience of archaeologists, probing gently through rock that has not been disturbed for millennia. Each pulse travels downward, bounces off hidden surfaces, and returns carrying secrets written in the language of reflected energy. The waves penetrate through the familiar limestone blocks of the pyramids, through the desert sand that has accumulated over centuries, through layers of bedrock that formed when Egypt lay beneath ancient seas. The technology works by measuring the time it takes for radar signals to travel to underground objects and return to the surface. Different materials reflect these signals in different ways, creating a kind of fingerprint that reveals not just the presence of hidden structures, but their shape, size, and even their composition. Dense materials like worked stone create strong reflections, while empty spaces appear as shadows in the data. The synthetic aperture radar used at Giza was particularly well suited for this environment because the dry desert conditions allow radio waves to penetrate much deeper than they could in areas with high groundwater or dense vegetation. The data appeared on computer screens as ghostly patterns, geometric shapes that emerged from the digital noise like constellations appearing in a darkening sky. At first, the researchers thought they might be seeing equipment malfunctions or interference from the pyramids themselves. The structures the radar was revealing seemed too large, too deep, too perfectly engineered to be real. But as they refined their analysis and confirmed their measurements, the impossible began to seem inevitable. What the team discovered defied their expectations and challenged everything they thought they knew about the underworld of Giza. 8 vertical shafts, each one a perfectly engineered passage descending into the bedrock with the precision of master architects. These were not natural formations carved by water or wind, but deliberate constructions that spoke of human intention and impossible skill. The shafts appeared to be circular in cross-section, each one approximately 6 meters in diameter, their walls carved with such precision that they appeared almost machine-tooled. The shafts plunged over 2,100 feet into the earth, deeper than the height of the Great Pyramid itself. To put this in perspective, imagine standing at the base of the pyramid and looking up to its apex, then imagine that same distance extending downward into the solid rock beneath your feet. The engineering required to excavate such passages with the tools available to ancient builders seems to border on the impossible. Yet the radar signatures suggested exactly such an achievement. The depth of these shafts would challenge modern drilling equipment, requiring not just brute force but careful planning to prevent collapse and maintain structural integrity. Connected to these vertical passages were helical staircases that spiraled around the shafts like genetic codes made of stone. These staircases were not crude tunnels but sophisticated architectural features that would challenge modern engineers. They wound downward in perfect mathematical curves, their angles calculated to provide safe passage while maintaining structural integrity under the immense weight of the rock above. The radar data suggested that these staircases were approximately 2 meters wide, with steps carved directly into the shaft walls at intervals that would allow comfortable descent even for heavily laden travelers. The mathematical precision of these helical passages was perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the discovery. Each staircase descended at exactly the same angle, following a spiral pattern that seemed to be based on the golden ratio, that mysterious mathematical relationship that appears throughout nature and was revered by ancient mathematicians. The consistency of this design across all 8 shafts suggested not just planning but a deep understanding of engineering principles that historians had never attributed to the pyramid builders. At the bottom of these shafts, the radar revealed chambers that took the breath away, cube-shaped spaces, each one measuring 80 meters on each side, carved from the living bedrock with walls so smooth they appeared almost polished. These were not small burial chambers or storage rooms, but vast halls that could hold hundreds of people. To appreciate the scale of these chambers, imagine a space large enough to contain a modern cathedral, with ceilings that soared 80 meters overhead and walls that stretched the same distance in every direction. The volume of rock that would have been removed to create just one of these chambers would have been enormous, requiring the excavation of over 500,000 cubic meters of solid limestone. The geometric perfection of these chambers suggested they were designed for purposes that went beyond mere utility, spaces that were meant to inspire awe and reverence in those who entered them. The radar signatures indicated that the walls were not just smooth but appeared to have been finished with some kind of coating or treatment that made them reflect the radar signals in a unique way. This suggested that the builders had not simply carved these spaces but had taken great care to perfect their appearance and perhaps their acoustic properties. The corridors connecting these chambers formed a network that spread beneath the plateau like the root system of some enormous tree. The passages followed precise alignments that seemed to mirror the layout of the pyramids above, suggesting that the entire complex, both above and below ground, was designed as a single unified structure. The underground network was not an afterthought or a later addition, but an integral part of the original architectural vision. Some of the corridors appeared to run directly beneath the foundations of the pyramids themselves, while others extended outward toward the Sphinx and beyond, hinting at an underground complex that might encompass the entire Giza Plateau. Professor Malanga and his team spoke of the discovery with voices filled with wonder and uncertainty. They had used the most advanced technology available to peer into the Earth, yet what they found seemed to belong to a level of civilization that historians had never imagined. The scale of the construction, the precision of the engineering, and the mathematical perfection of the design all pointed to builders who possessed knowledge and capabilities that modern science struggles to explain. The discovery challenged not just archaeological assumptions, but fundamental beliefs about the development of human civilization itself. The synthetic aperture radar had revealed more than just empty spaces in the rock. The chambers appeared to contain structures within structures, geometric patterns that suggested furniture, altars, or devices whose purposes remained completely mysterious. The radar signatures showed density variations that indicated the presence of different materials, perhaps metals or stones that had been carefully placed within the chambers according to some unknown design. Some areas within the chambers showed reflectivity patterns that suggested the presence of water or other liquids, while others indicated dense metallic objects that might be artifacts or architectural features. As word of the discovery spread through the archaeological community, it carried with it all the excitement and controversy that accompanies any claim that challenges established understanding. The implications were staggering. If these chambers truly existed, if they were as old as the pyramids themselves, then the builders of Giza had created not just monuments to the dead, but entire cities beneath the earth. Underground realms that had waited in perfect silence for thousands of years, holding their secrets like seeds waiting for the right season to bloom. The team's instruments had penetrated deeper into the earth than any archaeologist had ever gone, yet they had only scratched the surface of the mystery. Each answer revealed new questions. Each discovery pointed to even greater unknowns waiting in the darkness below. The radar scans suggested that what they had found might be only the uppermost levels of a complex that extended even deeper into the earth, chambers beneath chambers, passages that might connect to other sites, other monuments, other mysteries scattered across the ancient world. But beneath every revolutionary claim lies a storm of scrutiny, and the closer the scientific community looked at these extraordinary findings, the more tangled and controversial the story became. In the hallowed halls of Egyptian archaeology, where careers are built on careful excavation and peer-reviewed research, the announcement of vast underground chambers beneath Giza landed like a meteor in a peaceful garden. The discovery that promised to rewrite history was met not with celebration, but with the sharp scrutiny that greets all claims that dare to challenge the established order. At the center of this storm stood Dr. Zahi Hawass, former Minister of Tourism and Antiquities, whose voice carries the weight of decades spent protecting Egypt's archaeological treasures from both treasure hunters and overzealous theorists. Dr. Hawass had spent his career walking the delicate line between scientific inquiry and protection of Egypt's irreplaceable heritage. He had seen countless claims of revolutionary discoveries come and go, most of them based on wishful thinking rather than solid evidence. From his office overlooking the bustling streets of Cairo, he had watched amateur archaeologists and self-proclaimed researchers announce finding everything from Atlantis to alien landing sites beneath the sands of Egypt. Each unfounded claim not only wasted valuable resources, but also damaged the credibility of legitimate archaeological research. Dr. Hawass wasted no time in dismissing the findings as fake news. his words cutting through the excitement with the precision of a surgical blade. From his perspective, the claims made by Professor Malanga and his team violated every protocol that governs legitimate archaeological research. The synthetic aperture radar survey had been conducted without the proper permits from Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities, making it not just scientifically questionable, but legally problematic. In Egypt, where ancient sites are considered national treasures, unauthorized research is treated with the same seriousness as theft. The permit system exists for good reasons that extend far beyond bureaucratic formality. Every archaeological site is unique, with its own geological conditions, historical context, and conservation needs. Researchers who work without proper authorization miss crucial information about local conditions that can affect both the safety of their work and the accuracy of their results. The Supreme Council of Antiquities maintains detailed records of previous excavations, geological surveys, and conservation efforts at each site, information that is essential for interpreting new discoveries correctly. The controversy deepened when investigators began examining the credentials and methodology behind the discovery. Questions arose about the specific equipment used, the calibration of the instruments, and the interpretation of the data. Synthetic aperture radar, while a powerful tool for subsurface imaging, has limitations that its operators must acknowledge and account for. The technology works best in specific geological conditions and can produce false readings when those conditions are not met. Critics pointed out that the limestone bedrock beneath Giza is riddled with natural cavities, water channels, and mineral deposits that could create radar signatures resembling artificial structures. The technical challenges of conducting radar surveys at Giza are more complex than they might initially appear. The limestone bedrock was formed over millions of years from compressed seafloor sediments, creating a layered structure with varying densities and mineral compositions. Some layers are more porous than others, allowing water to flow through them and creating underground streams and pools. These water-filled cavities can produce strong radar reflections that might be mistaken for artificial chambers by inexperienced operators. The academic community found itself divided between those who welcomed any new approach to understanding Giza and those who insisted that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. The history of archaeology is littered with discoveries that seemed revolutionary at first, but later proved to be misinterpretations of natural phenomena or wishful thinking imposed on ambiguous data. The Piltdown Man, the Cardiff Giant, and countless other archaeological hoaxes serve as reminders that skepticism is not the enemy of discovery but its guardian. Professor Sarah Johnson of Cambridge University, a specialist in remote sensing archaeology, raised specific concerns about the depth limitations of synthetic aperture radar. She explained that while the technology can indeed penetrate dry sediments and rock, its effectiveness decreases dramatically with depth. At the depths claimed for the Giza chambers, over 2,000 feet below the surface, the radar signals would be so weakened and distorted that distinguishing between natural and artificial features would be virtually impossible. The resolution at such depths would be measured in tens of meters, making it impossible to detect the fine details that would be necessary to confirm artificial construction. Dr. Hawass raised specific technical concerns about the radar survey. He questioned whether the equipment used was sophisticated enough to penetrate to the depths claimed and whether the operators had sufficient experience interpreting radar data in the unique geological environment of the Giza Plateau. The limestone bedrock beneath the pyramids is not uniform, but consists of multiple layers formed over millions of years, each with different densities and compositions that could interfere with radar signals. Underground water flows, which are known to exist beneath Giza, can create reflections and distortions that might be mistaken for artificial structures. The water table beneath Giza presents particular challenges for subsurface imaging. The Nile River, flowing just a few kilometers away, creates a complex hydrological system that extends deep into the bedrock. Ancient channels carved by long-vanished rivers crisscross the area, some of them filled with sediment, others still carrying water. These natural features can create geometric patterns in radar data that might appear artificial to researchers who are not familiar with the local geology. The absence of peer-reviewed documentation became a central point of criticism. In legitimate scientific research, Discoveries are not announced through press releases or social media, but through carefully reviewed papers published in established journals. The peer review process, while sometimes slow and conservative, serves as a quality control mechanism that helps separate genuine discoveries from errors, misinterpretations, and deliberate fraud. Without this validation, even the most exciting claims remain in the realm of speculation rather than accepted science. The peer review process involves submitting research findings to experts in the same field who examine the methodology, data analysis, and conclusions with a critical eye. These reviewers look for potential sources of error, alternative explanations for the observed phenomena, and gaps in the logical chain that connects raw data to final conclusions. For a discovery as extraordinary as underground chambers beneath Giza, the review process would be particularly rigorous, with multiple experts examining every aspect of the claim. Critics also pointed to the extraordinary scale of the alleged discovery as a reason for skepticism. The construction of 8 shafts descending over 2,000 feet into solid bedrock would represent an engineering achievement that surpasses anything known from the ancient world. Even with modern equipment, such an undertaking would be monumentally expensive and time-consuming. The idea that ancient builders accomplished this feat with copper tools and human labor strains credibility beyond the breaking point. The volume of rock that would need to be removed, estimated at several million cubic meters, would require not just advanced engineering but a massive workforce operating for decades or centuries. To put the scale of this alleged construction in perspective, consider that the Great Pyramid itself contains approximately 2.5 million cubic meters of stone. The underground complex described in the radar survey would require the excavation of more than twice that volume of solid bedrock, all of it from depths where working conditions would be extremely challenging. The logistics of removing that much rock, providing ventilation for workers, and disposing of the excavated material would have been staggering even by the standards of a civilization capable of building the pyramids. The scientific method demands that researchers consider not just whether their interpretation of data is possible, but whether it is the most likely explanation given all available evidence. In the case of the Giza radar survey, alternative explanations for the anomalous readings had not been adequately explored or ruled out. Natural limestone caves, underground water channels, mineral deposits, or even equipment malfunctions could potentially create patterns that might be mistaken for artificial structures by researchers eager to make a groundbreaking discovery. The principle of Occam's razor suggests that when multiple explanations are possible, the simplest one that accounts for all the available evidence is usually correct. In the case of the Giza anomalies, natural geological processes could explain the radar signatures without requiring the assumption that ancient builders possessed capabilities far beyond anything else they demonstrated. Limestone bedrock is notorious for developing complex cave systems, underground rivers, and other natural features that could easily create the patterns observed in the radar data. The controversy also highlighted the complex relationship between technology and interpretation in modern archaeology. Sophisticated instruments can detect subtle variations in subsurface conditions, but converting those measurements into meaningful archaeological information requires not just technical expertise, but deep knowledge of local geology, historical context, and the limitations of the technology itself. The same radar signature that suggests an artificial chamber to one researcher might indicate a natural cavity to another, depending on their experience and expectations. Dr. Maria Rodriguez, a geophysicist who specializes in archaeological applications of remote sensing, emphasized that radar data is always ambiguous and requires careful interpretation in light of all available information about a site. She pointed out that even the most sophisticated imaging technology can produce false positives, especially when operated by researchers who are not familiar with the specific challenges of the local environment. The interpretation of subsurface imaging data is as much art as science, requiring years of experience and intimate knowledge of how different geological features appear in the data. Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities emphasized that legitimate archaeological research requires not just advanced technology, but careful planning, proper permits, and collaboration with local experts who understand the unique conditions at each site. The Council's strict regulations are not intended to stifle research, but to ensure that investigations are conducted in ways that preserve the sites for future generations while producing reliable, verifiable results. Unauthorized surveys, regardless of their technological sophistication, undermine this careful system of oversight and protection. The regulatory framework governing archaeological research in Egypt has been developed over decades of experience with both legitimate researchers and treasure hunters. The Council has seen firsthand how unauthorized digging and surveying can damage irreplaceable sites, contaminate archaeological contexts, and lead to the loss of valuable information. The permit system ensures that research is conducted by qualified teams using appropriate methods and that all discoveries are properly documented and preserved. The debate over the Giza discovery also revealed deeper tensions within the archaeological community about the role of new technologies in understanding ancient sites. While most researchers welcome technological advances that can reveal new information without damaging fragile sites, they also worry about the tendency to privilege dramatic new findings over careful, incremental research. The pressure to announce groundbreaking discoveries can sometimes lead researchers to overinterpret ambiguous data or rush to publication without adequate verification. The democratization of advanced technology has created new opportunities for archaeological research, but it has also created new challenges. Equipment that once required major institutional backing can now be acquired by smaller research teams or even individual investigators. While this has opened up new possibilities for discovery, it has also increased the risk of poorly conducted research that lacks the rigorous oversight and quality control that major institutions provide. Yet even as the criticisms mounted and the debate intensified, some voices in the archaeological community urged caution about dismissing the findings too quickly. History reminds us that today's heresy is often tomorrow's accepted truth, and that some of archaeology's greatest discoveries were initially met with skepticism from established authorities. The possibility that something extraordinary lies hidden beneath the sands of Giza, waiting to reshape our understanding of ancient civilization, continues to capture imaginations and fuel research efforts around the world. But this isn't the first time Giza has whispered of hidden depths, and the mysteries that surround this ancient site run far deeper than any single discovery. Long before radar waves penetrated the bedrock beneath the pyramids, explorers and archaeologists had discovered that Giza holds secrets not just in its towering monuments, but in the spaces carved deep beneath them. The Great Pyramid, that mathematical marvel that has captivated minds for millennia, contains within its bulk a chamber that few visitors ever see, a room that speaks of mysteries older and stranger than the burial chambers above. This is the subterranean chamber, an unfinished space carved directly into the bedrock beneath the pyramid's foundation, a place that raises more questions than it answers. Descending into the Great Pyramid through the narrow descending passage is like traveling backward through time. The passage slopes downward at an angle of 26 degrees, carved with such precision that its alignment with the North Celestial Pole suggests the builders possessed astronomical knowledge of remarkable sophistication. The walls press close on either side, forcing visitors to bend low as they make their way through limestone blocks fitted together with tolerances measured in fractions of millimeters. The air grows cooler as depth increases, carrying with it the weight of 4.5 million tons of stone pressing down from above. At the bottom of this passage, carved directly into the living bedrock that forms the foundation of the entire Giza Plateau, lies the subterranean chamber. This rough-hewn room stretches approximately 14 meters from east to west and 8 meters from north to south, its ceiling rising just over 3 meters above a floor that was never smoothed or finished. The chamber appears to have been abandoned during construction, its walls bearing the tool marks of ancient workers who carved it from solid limestone, and then, for reasons lost to history, simply walked away. The most mysterious feature of the subterranean chamber is not what it contains, but what it lacks. Unlike the burial chambers higher in the pyramid, this space shows no evidence of ever having been prepared for its intended purpose. The floor is uneven, scattered with loose stones and debris. The walls remain rough and unfinished, bearing the chisel marks of workers who never returned to complete their task. Most puzzling of all is a deep pit carved into the chamber's floor, a shaft that descends another 3 meters into the bedrock before ending abruptly, as if the workers had been searching for something specific and stopped when they failed to find it. The abandonment of the subterranean chamber has puzzled archaeologists for over a century. Why would the builders of the Great Pyramid, those master architects who planned every other aspect of the structure with mathematical precision, leave this chamber in such an unfinished state? Some theories suggest that the chamber was part of an earlier design that was abandoned when the pyramid's internal layout was changed during construction. Others propose that the chamber was intended as a false burial room designed to mislead potential tomb robbers who might penetrate the pyramid's defenses. But the subterranean chamber is not the only enigma lurking within the Great Pyramid's stone bulk. In 2017, an international team of scientists using muon tomography, a technique that detects cosmic rays passing through the pyramid, announced the discovery of a previously unknown void within the structure. This space, which researchers dubbed the Big Void, stretches approximately 30 meters in length and is located above the Grand Gallery, that soaring corridor that leads to the King's Chamber. The Big Void represents one of the most significant archaeological discoveries in the Great Pyramid since the 19th century, yet its purpose and contents remain completely unknown. The muon tomography revealed only that the space exists and provided rough estimates of its size and location. Whether it contains artifacts, treasure, or simply empty air remains a mystery that current technology cannot resolve without actually penetrating the pyramid's structure, something that Egyptian authorities are understandably reluctant to permit. The discovery of the Big Void raised tantalizing questions about what other spaces might exist within the pyramid's bulk. The structure contains over 2 million individual stone blocks, many weighing several tons, all fitted together in a complex three-dimensional puzzle that has defied complete understanding despite centuries of study. The possibility that additional voids or chambers await discovery has sparked new interest in non-invasive exploration techniques and renewed debates about the pyramid's original purpose and design. Adding to the pyramid's mysteries are the so-called air shafts, narrow passages that extend from the king's and queen's chambers toward the pyramid's outer surface. These shafts, measuring approximately 20 centimeters square in cross-section, were long thought to provide ventilation for the burial chambers. However, detailed exploration using robotic cameras revealed that some of these shafts do not actually reach the pyramid's exterior but end mysteriously within the structure itself. In 1993, a robot named Upuat-2 explored the southern shaft leading from the Queen's chamber and discovered what appeared to be a small stone door blocking the passage approximately 65 meters from the chamber. The door, made of limestone and fitted with what looked like copper handles, sparked worldwide excitement and speculation about what might lie beyond it. When researchers finally managed to drill through this barrier in 2002, they found not a hidden chamber but another stone block, suggesting that the shaft might extend even further into the pyramid's interior. The northern shaft from the Queen's chamber revealed similar mysteries. Robot exploration showed that this passage also contains what appear to be blocking stones, and its ultimate destination remains unknown. The purpose of these shafts, their unusual construction, and the reasons for their apparent deliberate blocking have generated numerous theories but no definitive answers. Some researchers suggest they had astronomical significance, aligning with specific stars or constellations that were important to ancient Egyptian religion. Others propose they served ritual purposes, allowing the pharaoh's spirit to travel to the afterlife. Perhaps the most visible mystery of the Great Pyramid is also one of its most perplexing. The structure lacks its original capstone, the pyramidal apex that would have completed its geometric perfection. This missing piece, known as a pyramidion, was traditionally made of precious materials and often covered with gold or electrum to catch and reflect the sun's rays. Ancient texts describe pyramid capstones as sacred objects that were installed with great ceremony, yet the Great Pyramid's capstone has never been found. The absence of the capstone raises questions that extend beyond simple theft or destruction. The pyramid's apex shows no signs of the damage that would be expected if a massive stone capstone had been forcibly removed. Instead, the top of the pyramid consists of a flat platform approximately 10 meters square, as if the structure was deliberately left unfinished or the capstone was made of materials that have completely disappeared over time. Some researchers have suggested that the missing capstone might have been made of materials other than stone. Gold, electrum, or even crystal pyramidions have been proposed, materials that would have been valuable enough to motivate their removal in later periods. However, the complete absence of any evidence for such a capstone, including the mounting fixtures that would have been necessary to secure it, suggests that the mystery might be more complex than simple theft. The enigmas within and around the Great Pyramid are not isolated puzzles but part of a larger pattern of mysteries that extends across the entire Giza Plateau. The Sphinx, that enigmatic guardian with the body of a lion and the face of a pharaoh, presents its own collection of unanswered questions. Carved from a single piece of limestone, the Sphinx shows evidence of extensive water erosion that some researchers argue could only have been caused by rainfall far heavier than the current climate of Egypt can provide. The water erosion hypothesis, championed by geologist Robert Schoch, suggests that the Sphinx might be thousands of years older than traditionally believed, dating to a time when the Egyptian climate was wetter and more conducive to the heavy rainfall that could have created the observed erosion patterns. This theory challenges conventional archaeological dating and suggests that sophisticated stone carving techniques existed in Egypt far earlier than previously thought. Adding to the Sphinx's mysteries is the controversial inventory stela, an ancient stone tablet that some interpret as evidence that the Sphinx existed before the reign of Khufu, the pharaoh traditionally credited with building the Great Pyramid. The stela, discovered in the 19th century, contains hieroglyphic text that appears to describe repairs made to the Sphinx during Khufu's reign, implying that the monument was already ancient by that time. However, most Egyptologists consider the stela to be a later creation that does not accurately reflect 4th dynasty history. The possibility that the Sphinx predates the pyramids by thousands of years would revolutionize our understanding of ancient Egyptian civilization and human development more broadly. It would suggest that the techniques and knowledge required to create monumental architecture existed far earlier than current theories propose, and that the timeline of human cultural development might need significant revision. Beneath the Sphinx itself, ground-penetrating radar and seismic surveys have detected what appear to be chambers or cavities carved into the bedrock. These spaces, if they exist, could potentially contain artifacts or inscriptions that might resolve some of the mysteries surrounding the monument's age and purpose. However, Egyptian authorities have been reluctant to permit invasive exploration that might damage the Sphinx, leaving these potential discoveries tantalizingly out of reach. The network of tunnels and chambers beneath the Giza Plateau extends beyond the individual monuments to encompass the entire area. Ancient accounts describe underground passages connecting the pyramids to each other and to the Sphinx, though most of these descriptions come from classical sources that may not be entirely reliable. Modern surveys have confirmed the existence of some underground features, including natural caves and artificial tunnels, but the full extent of the subterranean network remains unknown. Water plays a mysterious role in many of the underground features at Giza. The subterranean chamber contains evidence of water damage, suggesting that it has been flooded at various times throughout history. Some researchers have proposed that underground water channels, either natural or artificial, were an important part of the original design of the Giza complex. These waterways might have served practical purposes such as transportation and construction, or ritual purposes connected to ancient Egyptian beliefs about water as a symbol of primordial creation. The limestone bedrock beneath Giza is naturally porous and contains numerous water-bearing layers that create underground streams and pools. The interaction between these natural water features and the artificial structures built by ancient engineers has created a complex hydrological system that continues to affect the stability and preservation of the monuments. Understanding this system is crucial not only for solving historical mysteries but for protecting the sites from ongoing environmental damage. If these puzzles remain unanswered after centuries of study, could a deeper structure beneath it all be the missing link that connects all these mysterious elements into a coherent whole? The possibility that an extensive underground complex exists beneath Giza, predating or contemporary with the pyramids themselves, offers potential explanations for many of the site's enduring enigmas while raising entirely new questions about the sophistication and purposes of ancient Egyptian civilization. Deep beneath the sun-baked sands of the Giza Plateau, where tourists walk among monuments that have withstood the test of millennia, water flows in hidden channels carved by time and intention. This underground realm of streams and pools represents one of the most overlooked aspects of the ancient site, yet it may hold keys to understanding not only how the pyramids were built, but why they were placed precisely where they stand today. The relationship between water and the sacred architecture of Giza extends far beyond the practical needs of construction workers, reaching into the deepest beliefs of a civilization that saw water as the source of all life and creation. The geological foundation of the Giza Plateau tells a story written in stone over millions of years. The limestone bedrock that supports the pyramids was formed during the Eocene period, when Egypt lay beneath a warm, shallow sea. Layer upon layer of marine sediments accumulated on the ancient seafloor, compressing over time into the limestone that would eventually become the building material for humanity's most ambitious architectural projects. This sedimentary origin left the rock naturally porous, riddled with tiny spaces and channels that make it an ideal medium for underground water flow. As the ancient sea receded and the land rose, the porous limestone became part of a complex aquifer system connected to the Nile River and extending deep into the African continent. Underground water follows paths of least resistance through the rock, creating a network of channels, caverns, and pools that exists parallel to the visible world above. Some of these waterways are natural formations carved by countless years of patient flow, while others show signs of human modification that suggest ancient engineers understood and worked with the underground hydrology of the site. Modern hydrogeologists studying the Giza Plateau have discovered evidence of extensive underground water movement that challenges assumptions about the site's ancient environment. The water table beneath the pyramids fluctuates with the seasonal flooding of the Nile, rising and falling in a rhythm that connects the monuments to Egypt's life-giving river, even though they sit on high ground well above the floodplain. This connection suggests that the ancient builders were aware of the underground water system and may have incorporated it into their architectural plans. Acoustic studies of the pyramid interiors have revealed anomalies that some researchers interpret as evidence of water-filled cavities within or beneath the structures. When sound waves travel through the pyramid's bulk, they encounter density variations that create echoes and resonances. Some of these acoustic signatures match the patterns expected from water-filled chambers, though definitive proof remains elusive. The possibility that water plays an active role in the pyramid's internal structure adds another layer of complexity to already mysterious buildings. In ancient Egyptian cosmology, water held a significance that extended far beyond its practical importance for agriculture and daily life. The primordial waters of Nun represented the chaotic state that existed before creation, the infinite ocean from which all life emerged through the will of the gods. The annual flooding of the Nile was seen not merely as a natural phenomenon, but as a reenactment of the original act of creation, when dry land first emerged from the primordial waters and life began to flourish upon it. The pyramid texts, among the oldest religious writings known to humanity, contain numerous references to water in connection with the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. The deceased king is described as crossing celestial waters, sailing in boats that carry him to his eternal destination among the stars. Some scholars suggest that the underground water system at Giza might have been designed to facilitate ritual journeys that symbolically recreated these mythological voyages, allowing priests and initiates to travel through darkened waterways that represented the realm of the dead. Archaeological evidence supports the theory that water played an important role in pyramid construction that went beyond simple transportation and mixing of mortar. The precision with which the pyramid blocks were cut and fitted suggests the use of advanced techniques that might have required large quantities of water for cooling tools, lubricating cutting surfaces, and creating the perfectly smooth finishes that characterize the finest pyramid masonry. Underground water sources would have provided a reliable supply for these purposes without the logistical challenges of transporting water from the distant Nile. The acoustic properties of the pyramids become even more intriguing when considered in connection with underground water systems. Sound travels differently through air than through stone, and the presence of water-filled chambers or channels could dramatically affect the acoustic environment within the pyramids. Some researchers have suggested that the pyramids were designed as acoustic instruments, their internal chambers and passages carefully proportioned to create specific resonant frequencies when activated by sound or vibration. Water's ability to conduct and amplify sound could have made underground waterways an integral part of such an acoustic system. Imagine priests chanting in chambers connected to water-filled tunnels, their voices carried through the hidden channels to emerge in other parts of the complex, creating the impression of voices from the underworld. The acoustic possibilities of such a system would have been limited only by the imagination and skill of the ancient engineers who designed it. Temperature regulation represents another potential function of underground water systems in the pyramid complex. The desert climate of Egypt creates extreme temperature variations between day and night, with scorching heat during the day giving way to surprisingly cool nights. Underground water, insulated by layers of rock, maintains a relatively constant temperature year-round. Chambers connected to such water systems would have provided cool refuge from the desert heat, making them ideal for ritual activities that required participants to remain comfortable during long ceremonies. The cooling effect of underground water could also have served practical purposes during construction. The internal chambers of the pyramids maintain temperatures that are significantly cooler than the external environment, a phenomenon that has puzzled visitors for centuries. If these chambers were connected to water-filled tunnels or caverns, the thermal mass of the water would help regulate temperature, creating comfortable working conditions for the artisans who carved hieroglyphs, installed burial equipment, and performed the countless other tasks required to complete the monuments. Recent geological surveys using ground-penetrating radar and seismic imaging have detected what appear to be water-filled voids beneath various parts of the Giza Plateau. These anomalies show up as areas of high electrical conductivity and low seismic velocity, signatures that are consistent with underground water bodies. Some of these features appear to be natural aquifers, while others show geometric patterns that suggest human modification or construction. The distribution of these underground water features follows patterns that seem to correlate with the layout of the surface monuments. Water-bearing zones appear to underlie not only the pyramids themselves, but also the causeways that connect them to valley temples, the smaller satellite pyramids, and even the Sphinx. This correlation could be coincidental, reflecting natural geological features that influence the placement of the monuments, or it could indicate that the entire complex was designed as an integrated system that included both above-ground and below-ground elements. Ritual purification held central importance in ancient Egyptian religious practice, and water was the primary medium through which spiritual cleansing was achieved. Priests underwent elaborate purification rituals before entering sacred spaces, and these ceremonies often involved immersion in or contact with specially prepared water. The presence of underground water systems at Giza could have facilitated purification rituals that took place in hidden chambers, away from the eyes of the uninitiated. The journey through underground waterways could itself have served as a form of spiritual purification, a symbolic passage through the primordial waters that preceded creation. Initiates might have traveled through darkened channels, emerging into lamp-lit chambers that represented the emergence of order from chaos, of life from the primordial void. Such rituals would have created powerful psychological experiences that reinforced religious beliefs and demonstrated the power of the priesthood to control access to sacred knowledge. Hydraulic engineering in ancient Egypt reached levels of sophistication that modern engineers are only beginning to appreciate. The irrigation systems that managed the Nile's annual flood involved complex networks of channels, basins, and control structures that required advanced understanding of water flow, pressure, and volume calculations. The builders of the pyramids possessed this hydraulic expertise and could have applied it to underground water management systems that served both practical and ritual purposes. Evidence of ancient hydraulic engineering at Giza includes carefully shaped channels carved into bedrock, watertight seals made from a mixture of limestone powder and organic binders, and drainage systems that continue to function after thousands of years. These features suggest that the ancient engineers not only understood the natural hydrology of the site, but actively modified it to serve their purposes. The precision and durability of these water management systems rival modern engineering achievements. The seasonal rhythm of the Nile's flood cycle created a natural calendar that governed all aspects of ancient Egyptian life, from agricultural activities to religious festivals. The underground water system at Giza would have responded to these seasonal changes, with water levels rising and falling in harmony with the great river's annual cycle. This connection between the monuments and Egypt's life-giving flood could have been incorporated into ritual activities, creating ceremonies that celebrated the cosmic order that brought life to the desert. Modern conservation efforts at Giza must take into account the ongoing effects of underground water movement on the stability and preservation of the monuments. Changes in the water table caused by urban development, agricultural irrigation, and climate change continue to affect the foundations of the pyramids and could potentially cause structural damage if not properly managed. Understanding the ancient water systems is therefore not only archaeologically important, but practically necessary for protecting these irreplaceable monuments for future generations. What if the pyramids weren't built beside the Nile, but above an older, sacred river that flowed beneath them, connecting them to the cosmic waters that ancient Egyptians believed surrounded and sustained the world? This hidden river system might explain not only the remarkable preservation of the monuments, but also their mysterious acoustic properties, their precise astronomical alignments, and their enduring power to inspire wonder in all who encounter them. In the darkness beneath the desert, water continues to flow as it has for millions of years, carrying with it the secrets of a civilization that understood the profound connections between the earth, the sky, and the hidden forces that shape both. In the realm where archaeology meets mythology, where ancient wisdom traditions intersect with modern scientific inquiry, few concepts capture the imagination quite like the Hall of Records. This legendary repository of lost knowledge, said to lie hidden beneath the sands of Giza, represents more than just another archaeological mystery. It embodies humanity's deepest hopes that somewhere, somehow, the accumulated wisdom of vanished civilizations has been preserved, waiting for the right moment and the right seekers to bring it back into the light of day. The story of the Hall of Records weaves together threads from multiple sources, creating a tapestry of legend that has influenced explorers, archaeologists, and dreamers for over a century. At its heart lies the vision of a vast underground library, its chambers filled with scrolls, tablets, and artifacts that contain the complete history of human civilization, including knowledge of advanced technologies and spiritual insights that have been lost to the modern world. This repository is said to hold not only historical records but also prophecies about humanity's future, maps of hidden treasures, and instructions for accessing powers that could transform human understanding of reality itself. The most famous modern advocate for the existence of the Hall of Records was Edgar Cayce, an American mystic known as the Sleeping Prophet for his ability to enter trance states and deliver detailed information about subjects ranging from medicine to ancient history. Between 1900 and 1944, Cayce gave thousands of readings while in a deep hypnotic state, during which he claimed to access a universal consciousness that contained all knowledge of past, present, and future events. During his readings, Cayce frequently spoke of Atlantis, describing it not as a myth but as a real civilization that had achieved remarkable technological and spiritual advancement before being destroyed by its own hubris approximately 12,000 years ago. According to Cayce, survivors of Atlantis migrated to various parts of the world, including Egypt, where they worked with indigenous peoples to establish new centers of learning and spiritual development. The pyramids of Giza, in Cayce's vision, were built not merely as tombs, but as monuments that incorporated advanced Atlantean knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, and energy manipulation. Cayce's most specific prediction regarding the Hall of Records placed its location beneath the right paw of the Sphinx, in a chamber that he described as sealed but intact, waiting for humanity to reach a level of spiritual development that would make it worthy of the knowledge contained within. He predicted that this chamber would be discovered between 1998 and 2038, and that its contents would revolutionize human understanding of history, spirituality, and our place in the cosmos. The chamber, according to Cayce's descriptions, contains records spanning thousands of years of human history, including the complete story of Atlantis from its founding to its destruction. These records are said to be preserved on materials more durable than stone or metal, possibly some form of crystal or other mineral that can store information indefinitely without degradation. The repository also allegedly contains artifacts from Atlantis, including technological devices that demonstrate principles of energy manipulation unknown to modern science. Casey's predictions about the Hall of Records gained renewed attention in the late 20th century as archaeological techniques became sophisticated enough to actually search for hidden chambers beneath the Sphinx. Ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted in the 1980s and 90s did indeed detect what appeared to be chambers or cavities beneath and around the Sphinx, lending some credibility to the possibility that hidden spaces exist in the area where Casey had predicted they would be found. However, the legend of hidden repositories beneath Giza predates Casey by thousands of years. Ancient Egyptian texts themselves speak of secret chambers and hidden knowledge, though usually in metaphorical rather than literal terms. The concept of hidden wisdom appears throughout Egyptian religious literature, often associated with the god Thoth, who was believed to be the scribe of the gods and the keeper of all knowledge. Thoth, depicted as a man with the head of an ibis or sometimes as a baboon, was credited with inventing writing, mathematics, and astronomy. According to legend, he recorded all the deeds of the gods and maintained the universe's balance through his mastery of divine law and cosmic order. The mythical books of Thoth were said to contain all knowledge of magic, medicine, and the secrets of the afterlife, but they were hidden away from mortals who might misuse such powerful information. The Hermetic tradition, which emerged in the early centuries of the Common Era, claimed descent from the wisdom of Thoth, whom the Greeks identified with their god Hermes. Hermetic texts speak of hidden temples beneath the earth where sacred knowledge is preserved by initiates who guard it from the unworthy. These underground sanctuaries are described as being illuminated by eternal flames, decorated with astronomical symbols, and containing libraries of texts written in scripts that only the initiated can read. Medieval Arab historians and travelers often wrote about secret chambers beneath the pyramids and Sphinx, describing underground passages that led to rooms filled with treasures and ancient texts. The 9th century historian al-Masudi wrote of chambers beneath the pyramids that contained, quote, "the profound sciences and different arts," end quote. These accounts, while often dismissed as fantasy by modern scholars, suggest that legends of hidden knowledge at Giza have persisted across different cultures and time periods. The search for hidden chambers at Giza has intensified in recent decades as new technologies have made it possible to explore beneath the monuments without causing damage. Ground-penetrating radar, seismic surveys, and electromagnetic imaging have all detected anomalies that could potentially be artificial chambers, though none of these techniques can definitively prove the existence of rooms or their contents without direct access. In 1993, a team led by Dr. Joseph Shaw conducted an extensive ground-penetrating radar survey around the Sphinx and detected what appeared to be a large rectangular chamber beneath the monument's front paws, exactly where Casey had predicted the Hall of Records would be found. The chamber appeared to be approximately 9 meters by 12 meters in size and was located about 6 meters below the surface. However, Egyptian authorities denied permission for further exploration, and the chamber's existence and contents remain unverified. Additional surveys using more advanced equipment have detected other potential chambers around the Sphinx, including what appears to be a tunnel system connecting different areas beneath the monument. Some of these features could be natural caves or water channels, but others show geometric patterns that suggest artificial construction. The interpretation of these anomalies remains controversial, with different experts reaching different conclusions based on the same data. The technological challenges of confirming the existence and contents of underground chambers are significant. Current remote sensing techniques can detect variations in density and composition that suggest the presence of voids, but they cannot provide detailed images of what those voids contain. Only direct access through excavation or drilling can definitively prove the existence of chambers and reveal their contents, but such invasive techniques pose risks to the stability and preservation of the monuments. Egyptian authorities have been understandably cautious about permitting excavations that could damage the Sphinx or surrounding areas. The monument has already suffered significant deterioration over the centuries, and any additional structural stress could cause irreparable harm. The decision to prioritize preservation over exploration reflects the recognition that the visible monuments are irreplaceable cultural treasures that must be protected for future generations. The legend of the Hall of Records has also been influenced by discoveries at other archaeological sites that have revealed the existence of actual ancient libraries and repositories of knowledge. The Library of Alexandria, though not hidden underground, demonstrated that ancient civilizations did indeed create vast collections of texts and artifacts that preserved knowledge across centuries. Archaeological discoveries at sites like the Qumran caves, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were found, and the Nag Hammadi Library in Egypt have shown that important texts were sometimes deliberately hidden to protect them from destruction. These real discoveries lend credibility to the possibility that other repositories of ancient knowledge might exist, though they also demonstrate the challenges of preserving organic materials like papyrus and parchment over long periods. Any texts that might exist in chambers beneath Giza would need to be preserved on more durable materials or in environmental conditions that prevent decay. The concept of crystal storage mentioned in some versions of the Hall of Records legend is not entirely fantastical from a technological perspective. Modern science has developed techniques for storing digital information in crystal matrices, and some researchers have speculated that ancient civilizations might have discovered similar principles. However, no evidence currently exists for such advanced storage techniques in ancient Egypt. The spiritual and psychological appeal of the Hall of Records extends beyond its potential historical significance. In an age when much traditional knowledge has been lost, and when technological advancement seems to outpace wisdom, the idea of a preserved repository of ancient understanding offers hope that solutions to modern problems might be found in forgotten teachings. The legend suggests that humanity once possessed knowledge that could heal divisions, solve environmental problems, and create a more harmonious relationship between technology and nature. Whether the Hall of Records exists as a physical reality or serves as a powerful metaphor for humanity's need to recover lost wisdom, it continues to inspire exploration and research at Giza. The recent radar discoveries that suggested vast underground chambers have rekindled interest in the possibility that Casey's predictions might prove accurate, even if the reality differs from his specific descriptions. The new complex that Professor Malanga and his team claimed to have detected could potentially be the fulfillment of Casey's prophecy, though in a form larger and more complex than even he had envisioned. If the radar signatures prove accurate, the underground network beneath Giza might contain not just a single hall of records, but an entire complex of chambers that served as a center of learning and initiation for ancient civilizations. The timing of these claimed discoveries, falling within Casey's predicted window for the Hall of Records revelation, has not been lost on those who follow his teachings. Whether this represents genuine prophecy, remarkable coincidence, or the tendency of believers to interpret events in ways that confirm their expectations remains a matter of individual judgment. Whether divine prophecy or wishful fiction, whether ancient repository or natural geological formation, the myth of the Hall of Records persists because it speaks to fundamental human desires for knowledge, meaning, and connection to something greater than ourselves. In the darkness beneath the Sphinx, in the shadows cast by the pyramids, in the spaces between legend and reality, something continues to call to the human spirit, promising answers to questions we have not yet learned how to ask. In the quiet hours before dawn, when the desert air is still cool and the first light of day has not yet touched the ancient stones of Giza, a different kind of exploration begins. This is the realm of the electromagnetic spectrum, of cosmic rays and radio waves, of technologies that can peer through solid rock as easily as the human eye sees through clear glass. The tools that revealed the mysterious chambers beneath the pyramids represent the convergence of 21st century physics with humanity's oldest questions about its past, creating possibilities for discovery that would have seemed like magic to the pyramid builders themselves. Synthetic aperture radar, the technology that first revealed hints of the vast underground complex, operates on principles that transform the invisible into the visible. Radio waves, traveling at the speed of light, penetrate through sand and stone with an efficiency that depends on the electrical properties of the materials they encounter. Dense materials like worked stone create strong reflections, while empty spaces appear as shadows in the returning signals. The technique requires no physical contact with the site, no excavation that might damage irreplaceable monuments, no intrusion that might disturb the delicate balance between preservation and exploration. The radar system used at Giza operates in frequency ranges specifically chosen for their ability to penetrate the limestone bedrock that forms the foundation of the plateau. Lower frequencies can travel deeper but provide less detailed images, while higher frequencies offer greater resolution but cannot penetrate as far. The optimal frequency for each application represents a compromise between depth and detail, a balance that must be carefully calibrated based on the specific geological conditions of each site. The aircraft carrying the radar equipment flies in precise patterns over the survey area, its sensors collecting thousands of measurements that are later processed by sophisticated computer algorithms. Each radar pulse travels downward through the geological layers, bouncing off interfaces between materials with different electrical properties and returning to the surface with information encoded in the timing and strength of the reflected signals. The resulting data appears on computer screens as two-dimensional cross-sections that reveal the hidden architecture of the Earth itself. But synthetic aperture radar is only one tool in an expanding arsenal of non-invasive exploration techniques that are revolutionizing archaeology. Muon tomography, the method that revealed the big void within the Great Pyramid, harnesses cosmic rays that constantly bombard the Earth from outer space. These high-energy particles created by stellar explosions and other cosmic events can penetrate through hundreds of meters of solid rock, but they are absorbed or deflected by dense materials at rates that depend on the atomic composition of the matter they encounter. Muon detectors placed around and within the Great Pyramid measure the arrival rates and directions of these cosmic particles, creating a three-dimensional map of density variations within the structure. Empty chambers appear as areas where more muons pass through than would be expected if the space were filled with stone. The technique requires months of data collection to accumulate enough measurements for meaningful analysis, but it can detect voids and density anomalies with remarkable precision. The discovery of the big void using muon tomography represented a triumph of patience and technological sophistication. The international team responsible for the discovery, led by researchers from Japan, France, and Egypt, installed sensitive detectors in multiple locations within the pyramid and collected data for over a year. The cosmic rays they measured had traveled across the galaxy for millions of years before providing the final clues needed to reveal a chamber that had remained hidden for over 4 millennia. Light detection and ranging, commonly known as LiDAR, uses laser pulses instead of radio waves or cosmic rays to map surfaces and detect hidden features. When deployed from aircraft or satellites, LiDAR can create incredibly detailed three-dimensional maps of archaeological sites, revealing subtle variations in ground elevation that might indicate buried structures. The technique has proven particularly valuable for discovering ancient settlements hidden beneath jungle canopies or agricultural fields. At Giza, LiDAR surveys have revealed previously unknown features around the pyramids, including possible buried walls, foundations, and pathways that are not visible to the naked eye. The technique can detect elevation changes as small as a few centimeters, making it possible to trace the outlines of ancient structures even when they are completely buried beneath sand and sediment. The resulting maps provide archaeologists with guidance for future excavations and help them understand the full extent of ancient building complexes. Ground-penetrating radar operates on similar principles to airborne synthetic aperture radar, but provides much higher resolution images of subsurface features. The equipment, small enough to be carried by hand or mounted on a wheeled cart, sends electromagnetic pulses into the ground and measures the reflections that bounce back from buried objects or interfaces between different materials. The technique is particularly effective for detecting shallow features like foundations, walls, and underground utilities. Multiple ground-penetrating radar surveys conducted around the Sphinx and pyramids have detected numerous anomalies that could represent artificial structures, natural caves, or underground water channels. The interpretation of these radar signatures requires considerable expertise, as the same signal pattern might indicate very different features depending on the geological context. However, the accumulation of data from multiple surveys using different frequencies and techniques is gradually building a more complete picture of the subsurface environment at Giza. Gravitational anomaly detection represents one of the most sensitive methods for identifying underground voids and density variations. The technique measures tiny variations in the Earth's gravitational field that are caused by the presence of materials with different densities. Empty chambers create measurable decreases in gravitational attraction, while dense materials like metal artifacts produce small increases. The measurements require extremely sensitive instruments and careful correction for topographic effects, but they can detect features that are invisible to other methods. Recent gravitational surveys at Giza have identified several anomalies that correlate with features detected by other geophysical methods, providing independent confirmation of potential underground structures. The technique is particularly valuable because it responds to the total mass distribution beneath the survey point, making it less susceptible to false readings caused by surface features or equipment malfunctions. Electromagnetic induction methods measure the electrical conductivity of subsurface materials by observing how they respond to artificially generated magnetic fields. Different materials conduct electricity at different rates, with metals being highly conductive, dry rocks having low conductivity, and water or clay containing dissolved salts showing intermediate values. The technique can detect buried metal objects, water-filled chambers, and other features that have distinctive electrical properties. The combination of multiple geophysical techniques provides archaeologists with a powerful toolkit for non-invasive exploration that would have been unimaginable just a few decades ago. Each method has its own strengths and limitations, but when used together they can provide a comprehensive picture of subsurface conditions that guides more targeted investigations. The key to successful interpretation lies in understanding how different materials and structures appear in each type of survey and looking for consistent patterns across multiple datasets. The shift toward non-invasive archaeology reflects not only technological advancement, but also changing attitudes about the relationship between exploration and preservation. Traditional archaeological excavation, while providing the most direct access to buried artifacts and structures, inevitably destroys the context it seeks to understand. Once a site has been excavated, it can never be returned to its original state, and information that might have been revealed by future technologies is lost forever. Modern archaeology increasingly emphasizes the importance of preserving sites for future generations while still advancing our understanding of the past. Non-invasive techniques allow researchers to explore beneath the surface without disturbing the archaeological record, providing information that can guide limited excavations to the most promising locations. This approach maximizes the scientific value of any physical intervention while minimizing damage to irreplaceable cultural resources. The ethical considerations surrounding archaeological exploration at sites like Giza are complex and multifaceted. The monuments represent not only scientific resources, but also cultural treasures that belong to all humanity. The desire to unlock their secrets must be balanced against the obligation to preserve them for future generations who may have access to even more advanced investigative techniques. Egyptian authorities face the difficult task of managing sites that are simultaneously active archaeological research areas, major tourist destinations, and symbols of national identity. Every decision about permitting new research or exploration must weigh potential scientific benefits against risks of damage, disruption, or commercialization. The development of non-invasive techniques has made this balance somewhat easier to achieve by reducing the physical impact of research activities. The democratization of advanced technology has created new opportunities and challenges for archaeological research. Equipment that once required major institutional backing and specialized expertise can now be acquired and operated by smaller research teams or even individual investigators. While this has opened up new possibilities for discovery, it has also increased the risk of poorly conducted research that lacks proper oversight or quality control. The rapid pace of technological development means that new capabilities for archaeological exploration are constantly emerging. Artificial intelligence and machine learning algorithms are beginning to play important roles in analyzing the vast amounts of data generated by modern survey techniques. These computational tools can identify patterns and anomalies that might be missed by human analysts, potentially revealing features that have been hiding in plain sight within existing datasets. Quantum sensing technologies, still in early stages of development, promise even greater sensitivity for detecting subsurface features. These techniques harness quantum mechanical effects to create sensors that can measure gravitational, magnetic, and electromagnetic fields with unprecedented precision. While still largely experimental, quantum sensors could eventually provide archaeologists with tools capable of detecting individual artifacts or small chambers that are currently beyond the reach of conventional methods. The integration of different sensing technologies with advanced computer modeling is creating new possibilities for virtual archaeology that allows researchers to explore sites without physical access. Three-dimensional models created from multiple types of survey data can be navigated and examined in virtual reality environments, providing immersive experiences that rival actual site visits. These virtual reconstructions can also be used to test theories about ancient construction techniques or to visualize how sites might have appeared in their original condition. With every scan, every measurement, every algorithmic analysis of reflected waves and cosmic particles, the sands of time become less opaque, revealing glimpses of hidden chambers and forgotten passages that lie beneath humanity's oldest monuments. The tools of revelation continue to evolve, each new generation of technology bringing us closer to answering questions that have puzzled explorers for centuries. Yet as each mystery is illuminated, new questions emerge from the shadows, reminding us that the boundary between the known and unknown is always shifting, always calling us deeper into the labyrinth of human history. In the conventional narrative of human civilization, the story unfolds with reassuring predictability. Hunter-gatherers gradually developed agriculture, settled into villages, built cities, and eventually created the monumental architecture that still amazes us today. The pyramids of Giza, in this comfortable timeline, represent the pinnacle of 4th dynasty achievement, built around 2,500 years before the Common Era by a civilization that had spent centuries developing the skills and organization necessary for such ambitious projects. But what if this timeline, constructed from fragments of evidence and scholarly consensus, conceals a far more mysterious and ancient story? The first cracks in the conventional chronology appeared not in the pyramids themselves, but in their enigmatic guardian, the Great Sphinx. This colossal monument, carved from a single outcropping of limestone on the Giza Plateau, bears scars that speak of a different history than the one recorded in hieroglyphic texts. The weathering patterns etched into its ancient surface tell a story of water rather than wind, of rainfall rather than sandstorms, of climate conditions that have not existed in Egypt for thousands of years. Dr. Robert Schoch, a geologist from Boston University, first proposed the water erosion hypothesis in the early 1990s after careful examination of the Sphinx and its surrounding enclosure. His analysis revealed weathering patterns that are characteristic of precipitation rather than the wind-driven sand that has shaped Egypt's landscape for the past several millennia. The deep, rounded channels carved into the limestone walls of the Sphinx enclosure, the undulating erosion patterns on the monument's flanks, and the differential weathering between the head and body all point to extended exposure to significant rainfall. The implications of this geological evidence are profound and unsettling to conventional archaeology. If the Sphinx shows clear signs of water erosion, it must have been carved during a period when Egypt received much more rainfall than it does today. The last time the region experienced such a wet climate was during the African humid period, which ended approximately 5,000 years ago, with the most intense rainfall occurring much earlier, during the Younger Dryas period that concluded around 11,700 years ago. This geological timeline pushes the construction of the Sphinx back thousands of years before the traditionally accepted date, into an era when conventional archaeology suggests that human civilization was still in its infancy. The idea that sophisticated stone carving techniques existed during the Neolithic period challenges fundamental assumptions about the development of human capabilities and the progression of technological advancement. The water erosion hypothesis has faced significant resistance from the archaeological establishment, not because the geological evidence is disputed, but because its implications are so disruptive to established chronologies. If the Sphinx is indeed thousands of years older than previously believed, it would require a complete revision of our understanding of early human civilization and the development of monumental architecture. The monument would predate not only dynastic Egypt, but potentially all known examples of sophisticated stone carving anywhere in the world. Critics of the water erosion hypothesis have proposed alternative explanations for the weathering patterns observed on the Sphinx. Some suggest that the erosion was caused by groundwater seepage rather than surface rainfall, while others argue that the differential weathering between different parts of the monument reflects variations in the quality of the limestone rather than exposure to different climatic conditions. However, Dr. Schoch and other geologists who have examined the evidence maintain that the weathering patterns are most consistent with prolonged exposure to rainfall. The debate over the Sphinx's age has led to broader questions about the chronology of the entire Giza complex. If the Sphinx is indeed much older than traditionally believed, what does this mean for the pyramids that share the same plateau? Some researchers have suggested that the entire complex might represent multiple phases of construction spanning thousands of years, with later dynasties adding to and modifying structures that were originally built by an earlier, less well-understood civilization. Archaeological evidence for multiple construction phases at Giza includes differences in building techniques between various parts of the complex, anomalous tool marks that suggest the use of different technologies, and astronomical alignments that point to different time periods. The precision of the pyramid construction contrasts sharply with some of the cruder masonry found in associated structures, suggesting that the monuments might represent the work of different builders with varying levels of skill and technology. The astronomical alignments of the Giza monuments provide another line of evidence for reconsidering their age. The pyramids are oriented with remarkable precision to cardinal directions, and various features of the complex align with specific stars and constellations. However, due to the precession of the Earth's axis, the positions of stars in the sky change slowly over time, creating a celestial clock that can be used to date astronomical alignments. Some researchers have argued that the most significant astronomical alignments at Giza point not to the 4th dynasty period, but to much earlier dates. The Orion correlation theory, proposed by Robert Bauval and Adrian Gilbert, suggests that the three main pyramids were positioned to mirror the stars of Orion's belt as they appeared around 10,500 years before the Common Era. While this theory remains controversial, it highlights the possibility that astronomical considerations might provide clues to the true age of the monuments. The mystery deepens when we consider indigenous legends and oral traditions that speak of civilizations far older than recorded history. Ancient Egyptian texts themselves occasionally reference a time before the pharaohs, a golden age when gods walked among mortals and great works were accomplished through divine knowledge. The Turin King List and other ancient chronologies include references to thousands of years of rule by gods and demigods before the first human pharaohs, though these accounts are generally dismissed by modern scholars as mythological rather than historical. Similar stories of antediluvian civilizations appear in traditions around the world, from the flood narratives of Mesopotamia to the cycles of creation and destruction described in Hindu and Mayan cosmology. While these accounts are often considered mythological, some researchers suggest they might preserve distant memories of actual historical events and civilizations that existed before the development of written records. The possibility that advanced civilizations existed in the distant past and were subsequently lost to cataclysmic events has gained new credibility in recent years due to discoveries about the impact of cosmic events on human history. The Younger Dryas period, which ended approximately 11,700 years ago, appears to have been triggered by a cosmic impact or series of impacts that caused dramatic climate change and the extinction of many large mammal species. This cosmic catastrophe, if it occurred, would have devastated any advanced civilizations that existed at the time, potentially resetting human development and forcing survivors to rebuild from scattered remnants of their former knowledge. The pyramids and Sphinx might represent attempts by later peoples to reconstruct or commemorate the achievements of these lost civilizations, using whatever techniques and knowledge had survived the catastrophe. The concept of civilizational cycles, in which human societies rise to great heights only to fall and rise again, appears in many ancient philosophical and religious traditions. Plato's account of Atlantis describes a civilization that achieved remarkable technological and organizational sophistication before being destroyed by natural catastrophes. While Atlantis itself may be fictional, the story might reflect ancient memories of real civilizations that experienced similar fates. Archaeological evidence for lost civilizations continues to emerge from underwater sites around the world, where rising sea levels at the end of the last ice age submerged coastal settlements that might have been centers of advanced prehistoric cultures. Sites like Dwarka off the coast of India, Yonaguni near Japan, and various Mediterranean locations show evidence of sophisticated construction techniques that predate known historical civilizations. The end of the last ice age, approximately 11,700 years ago, saw sea levels rise by over 100 meters, flooding vast areas of previously habitable land. If advanced civilizations had developed in these coastal regions during the Ice Age, when sea levels were much lower, most evidence of their existence would now lie beneath hundreds of feet of water, largely inaccessible to conventional archaeological investigation. The possibility that the pyramids represent inherited rather than invented technology suggests a different model for the development of human civilization than the gradual progression traditionally assumed by archaeology. Instead of steady advancement from simple to complex, human development might follow a more cyclical pattern, with periods of advancement followed by decline and rediscovery. This cyclical model helps explain some of the puzzling aspects of ancient monuments like the pyramids, which seem to represent a level of technological and organizational sophistication that appears suddenly in the archaeological record without clear precedents. If these monuments were built using knowledge inherited from earlier civilizations, their advanced characteristics would make more sense within the broader context of human development. The question of whether later Egyptian dynasties were building new monuments or renovating existing ones has significant implications for our understanding of ancient capabilities. If the core structures at Giza are indeed much older than traditionally believed, the Fourth Dynasty builders might have been restoration specialists rather than original architects, working to repair and modify monuments that had already stood for thousands of years. Evidence for multiple phases of construction and renovation at Giza includes different types of stone used in various parts of the monuments, varying qualities of workmanship that suggest different levels of skill and technology, and structural modifications that appear to have been made long after the original construction. The Great Pyramid, for example, shows evidence of both incredibly precise construction and cruder later additions, suggesting that it might have been modified and repaired by successive generations of builders. The tools and techniques required to achieve the precision observed in the finest pyramid construction remain mysterious even by modern standards. The tolerances achieved in the cutting and fitting of the massive stone blocks exceed what would be expected from copper tools and primitive lifting equipment, suggesting either that the ancient builders possessed more advanced technology than currently recognized or that different construction methods were used than those traditionally assumed. Recent analysis of tool marks on pyramid stones has revealed anomalies that are difficult to explain using conventional theories about ancient construction techniques. Some marks appear to have been made by tools with characteristics that do not match known ancient implements, while others show evidence of cutting speeds and precision that would be challenging to achieve even with modern equipment. The possibility that advanced machining techniques were used in pyramid construction has been proposed by various researchers, though this idea remains highly controversial within mainstream archaeology. If such techniques were indeed employed, they would represent either remarkably advanced indigenous technology or the inheritance of knowledge from earlier civilizations that possessed capabilities rivaling or exceeding those of modern industrial societies. History, after all, is written by those who survive, not always those who build. The monuments of Giza might represent not the first flowering of human architectural achievement, but the last remnants of a much older tradition, preserved by later civilizations that recognized their importance even if they could not fully understand their original purpose or meaning. In the shadows of these ancient stones, we glimpse not just the achievements of known history, but the whispers of a far more ancient and mysterious human story. Across the vast expanse of our planet, separated by oceans and continents, ancient civilizations chose to express their highest aspirations through remarkably similar architectural forms. From the limestone plateaus of Egypt to the jungle-covered mountains of Guatemala, from the windswept highlands of Peru to the rice paddies of China, pyramid-shaped monuments rise from the earth like geometric prayers offered to the sky. These structures, built by peoples who supposedly had no contact with one another, share not only their basic pyramidal form but also sophisticated construction techniques, astronomical alignments, and mythological associations that suggest connections far deeper than conventional history acknowledges. The Great Pyramid of Giza stands as perhaps the most famous of these monuments, yet it represents only one point in a global network of pyramidal structures that spans continents and millennia. In the jungles of Central America, the stepped pyramids of the Maya reach toward the canopy with mathematical precision that rivals their Egyptian counterparts. At Teotihuacan in Mexico, the Pyramid of the Sun rises from a carefully planned urban complex that demonstrates urban planning principles remarkably similar to those employed at Giza thousands of years earlier and thousands of miles away. The Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan shares striking similarities with the Great Pyramid that extend beyond mere form. Both structures are precisely oriented to cardinal directions, both incorporate sophisticated mathematical relationships in their proportions, and both were built using construction techniques that required advanced understanding of engineering principles. The base of the Pyramid of the Sun measures approximately 225 meters on each side, nearly identical to the base dimensions of the Great Pyramid, despite being built by a completely different civilization in a different hemisphere. The precision of these shared characteristics raises profound questions about the development of human knowledge and the possibility of cultural exchange between ancient civilizations. How did builders separated by vast distances and apparently isolated from one another arrive at such similar solutions to the challenges of monumental construction? Were these similarities the result of independent innovation, suggesting that pyramidal forms represent natural expressions of human architectural instincts, or do they point to connections between ancient cultures that have been lost to conventional history? In South America, the ancient city of Caral in Peru presents another piece of this global puzzle. Dating to approximately 3,000 years before the Common Era, Caral contains step pyramids that predate many of the famous Egyptian monuments. The site demonstrates sophisticated urban planning, advanced agricultural techniques, and monumental architecture that required significant organizational capabilities and technical knowledge. The discovery of Caral challenged assumptions about the development of complex societies in the Americas and suggested that pyramid building traditions might be even older and more widespread than previously imagined. The similarities between Old World and New World pyramids extend beyond basic architectural form to include specific construction techniques and design principles. Many of these structures incorporate sophisticated drainage systems, precisely calculated astronomical alignments, and acoustic properties that suggest their builders possessed advanced understanding of engineering, astronomy, and physics. The consistency of these features across different cultures and time periods implies either remarkable convergent evolution of ideas or the transmission of knowledge through channels that conventional archaeology has not yet identified. China's ancient pyramids, concentrated primarily in the Shanxi province near the city of Xi'an, represent another fascinating chapter in this global story. These earth and stone monuments, some of which rival the pyramids of Egypt in size, have received relatively little attention from Western researchers due to access restrictions and language barriers. However, the available evidence suggests that Chinese pyramid builders employed construction techniques and mathematical principles that show striking parallels to those used in other parts of the ancient world. The Great Pyramid of Xi'an, also known as the Mausoleum of the First Qin Emperor, was originally approximately 76 meters tall and incorporated sophisticated internal chambers and passages. While the structure is primarily known for the terracotta army buried nearby, the pyramid itself demonstrates architectural sophistication that required advanced planning and engineering capabilities. The precise north-south alignment of the structure and its integration into a larger complex of monuments suggests that Chinese pyramid builders shared many of the same concerns and capabilities as their counterparts in other parts of the world. The astronomical alignments found in pyramids around the world provide particularly compelling evidence for shared knowledge systems among ancient cultures. Many of these monuments are oriented to specific stars, constellations, or celestial events that were significant in the mythologies and religious practices of their builders. The consistency of these astronomical associations across different cultures suggests either that ancient peoples had more extensive contact with one another than conventional history recognizes, or that they shared access to sophisticated astronomical knowledge from a common source. The pyramids of Giza are famously aligned with the constellation Orion, which the ancient Egyptians associated with Osiris, their god of death and resurrection. Similarly, many Mesoamerican pyramids are aligned with celestial bodies that played important roles in Maya and Aztec cosmology. The Pyramid of Kukulkan at Chichen Itza, for example, is oriented so that during the spring and autumn equinoxes, shadows cast by the structure create the appearance of a serpent descending the pyramid steps, demonstrating sophisticated understanding of both astronomy and architectural design. These astronomical alignments served purposes that extended beyond mere timekeeping or religious symbolism. They suggest that ancient pyramid builders understood their monuments as part of a larger cosmic order that connected earthly structures to celestial movements. This cosmological worldview appears in cultures around the world, suggesting either that it represents a fundamental aspect of human consciousness, or that it was transmitted between cultures through mechanisms that remain poorly understood. The mathematical relationships encoded in pyramids worldwide provide another line of evidence for shared knowledge systems among ancient builders. Many of these structures incorporate sophisticated geometric principles, including the golden ratio, pi, and other mathematical constants that were supposedly unknown to ancient peoples. The Great Pyramid of Giza encodes the value of pi in the relationship between its height and base perimeter, while various Mesoamerican pyramids incorporate the golden ratio in their proportional systems. The presence of these advanced mathematical concepts in monuments built by supposedly primitive cultures has generated considerable controversy among scholars. Mainstream archaeology generally attributes these mathematical relationships to coincidence or to the natural tendency of pleasing proportional systems to approximate fundamental mathematical constants. However, the consistency and precision of these relationships across different cultures and time periods suggest that at least some ancient builders possessed more sophisticated mathematical knowledge than conventional theories acknowledge. The construction techniques used in pyramid building around the world also show remarkable similarities that are difficult to explain through independent development. The precision cutting and fitting of massive stone blocks, the transportation of materials over long distances, and the organization of large workforces all required advanced planning and engineering capabilities. The fact that similar solutions to these challenges appeared in different parts of the world at different times suggests either that the techniques were more widely known than previously thought, or that they were transmitted between cultures through unknown channels. Recent archaeological discoveries have revealed evidence of transoceanic contact between ancient civilizations that was previously considered impossible. The presence of cocaine and tobacco residues in Egyptian mummies, plants that are native only to the Americas, suggests that contact between Old World and New World cultures might have occurred much earlier than previously believed. Similarly, the discovery of apparently Caucasian mummies in China and the presence of European genetic markers in some Native American populations point to cultural exchanges that predate known historical contact by thousands of years. The mythological traditions associated with pyramids around the world show striking parallels that extend beyond the architectural similarities of the monuments themselves. Many cultures describe their pyramids as being built by gods, giants, or other supernatural beings who possessed knowledge and capabilities far exceeding those of ordinary humans. These stories often include accounts of advanced technologies, flight, and other capabilities that seem to anticipate modern scientific achievements. The global flood narratives found in cultures around the world provide another piece of this puzzle. From the biblical account of Noah's Ark to the Mesopotamian epic of Gilgamesh, from Hindu Puranas to Native American traditions, stories of worldwide catastrophic flooding appear in virtually every ancient culture. These narratives often describe the destruction of advanced civilizations and the preservation of knowledge by survivors who went on to teach essential skills to later generations. The possibility that these flood narratives preserve actual historical memories of global catastrophic events has gained new credibility in recent years due to geological evidence for sudden climate changes at the end of the last ice age. The rapid melting of continental ice sheets approximately 11,700 years ago would have caused massive flooding that could have destroyed coastal civilizations and forced survivors to migrate to higher ground. If advanced civilizations existed before these catastrophic events and were subsequently destroyed or severely disrupted, the surviving knowledge might have been transmitted to later cultures through various channels. Pyramid building traditions might represent one aspect of this transmitted knowledge, preserved and adapted by different cultures according to their specific needs and capabilities. The role of secret societies and mystery schools in preserving and transmitting ancient knowledge has been suggested by various researchers as a possible mechanism for the global spread of pyramid building traditions. These organizations, which appear in many ancient cultures, were supposedly dedicated to preserving important knowledge and passing it on to worthy initiates. The similarities between initiation rituals and esoteric teachings found in different parts of the ancient world suggest that such organizations might have maintained contact with one another across vast distances and time periods. The modern discovery of precise navigation techniques used by ancient mariners has revealed that transoceanic travel was more feasible in ancient times than previously believed. The Polynesians demonstrated remarkable skill in navigating across vast expanses of the Pacific Ocean using only traditional techniques, while recent experimental archaeology has shown that ancient ship designs were capable of much longer voyages than previously thought. These discoveries suggest that cultural exchange between distant civilizations might have been more common than conventional archaeology acknowledges. The persistence of pyramid-building traditions into relatively recent times in some parts of the world provides additional evidence for the continuity of these knowledge systems. Some Pacific Island cultures continued to build stepped stone monuments well into the historical period, while certain Native American groups constructed earthen pyramids until European contact. These continuing traditions suggest that pyramid building represented more than just a brief phase in human architectural development, but rather an enduring expression of fundamental human aspirations and capabilities. The deeper we examine the global distribution of pyramids and their associated knowledge systems, the more the world's ancient sites begin to look less like scattered ruins built by isolated cultures and more like pieces of a global blueprint that connected civilizations across continents and millennia. Whether this blueprint represents the inheritance of knowledge from a lost global civilization or the natural expression of universal human wisdom remains one of archaeology's most intriguing mysteries. In the shadows of these ancient monuments, we glimpse not just the achievements of individual cultures, but the possibility of a much more connected and sophisticated ancient world than conventional history has dared to imagine. In the silence of the Great Pyramid's inner chambers, where limestone walls have witnessed millennia of human wonder, a different story whispers through the darkness. This is not the familiar tale of pharaohs and their eternal rest, but a more mysterious narrative that suggests the pyramids were never intended as tombs at all. Instead, these mathematical marvels might have functioned as sophisticated machines, designed to harness forces and energies that modern science is only beginning to understand. The possibility that these ancient monuments served purposes far beyond burial chambers opens doorways to questions about the true capabilities of their builders and the hidden functions of architecture itself. The absence of mummies, burial goods, and hieroglyphic inscriptions typical of Egyptian tombs has long puzzled archaeologists studying the Great Pyramid. Unlike the richly decorated burial chambers found in the Valley of the Kings, the interior of the Great Pyramid is remarkably austere, containing only empty stone chambers connected by narrow passages. This stark simplicity seems inconsistent with the elaborate funeral preparations that characterized Egyptian burial practices, suggesting that the pyramid might have served entirely different purposes than conventional archaeology assumes. The acoustic properties of the pyramid's interior chambers provide compelling evidence for alternative functions. The King's Chamber, that rectangular space at the heart of the Great Pyramid, exhibits resonant characteristics that amplify specific frequencies while dampening others. When sounds are produced within the chamber, certain tones are enhanced to create an almost otherworldly acoustic environment. This selective acoustic amplification suggests that the chamber might have been designed to facilitate specific types of sound-based activities, possibly including ritualistic chanting, meditation, or other practices that utilized acoustic phenomena. The granite coffer that sits in the king's chamber, traditionally interpreted as a sarcophagus, shows no evidence of ever having contained a body. Its dimensions and proportions suggest it might have served as an acoustic resonator, designed to vibrate at specific frequencies when activated by sound or other forms of energy. The coffer's position within the chamber, slightly off-center and oriented to precise geometric relationships, indicates careful placement that might relate to acoustic or energetic considerations rather than simple storage of burial goods. The mathematical precision encoded in the pyramid's design extends far beyond what would be necessary for a simple burial monument. The structure incorporates sophisticated relationships between its height, base dimensions, and internal angles that encode fundamental mathematical constants, including pi and the golden ratio. These relationships suggest that the pyramid was designed according to principles that prioritized mathematical and geometric perfection over the practical requirements of tomb construction. Recent research into the electrical properties of the Great Pyramid has revealed characteristics that are consistent with its functioning as a type of energy accumulator or resonator. The limestone and granite used in its construction have different electrical conductivities, creating interfaces that could potentially generate or store electrical charges under certain conditions. The pyramid's massive size and precise geometric form could amplify these electrical effects, creating an environment where significant energy accumulation might occur. The concept of the pyramid as an energy generator draws support from studies of piezoelectric effects in the crystalline structure of the pyramid's stone components. When mechanical stress is applied to certain crystals, they generate electrical charges, a phenomenon that is well understood in modern electronics. The immense weight of the pyramid's upper courses pressing down on the lower stones could potentially create piezoelectric effects that generate electrical activity within the structure. The internal passages and chambers of the Great Pyramid are arranged in patterns that bear striking resemblances to electrical circuits or energy distribution systems. The Grand Gallery, that soaring corridor that leads to the King's Chamber, has dimensions and proportions that suggest it might have functioned as a type of resonant cavity or waveguide, directing energy flows between different parts of the structure. The precise angles and alignments of these passages indicate careful design that goes far beyond the simple requirements of providing access to burial chambers. Water plays a mysterious role in theories about the pyramid's function as an energy-generating device. The underground chambers and passages show clear evidence of water flow, and some researchers have suggested that the movement of water through the pyramid's structure could have been used to generate electrical effects similar to those produced by hydroelectric systems. The combination of flowing water, crystalline stone, and precise geometric forms could potentially create conditions suitable for energy generation or accumulation. The astronomical alignments of the pyramid take on new significance when considered in the context of energy generation or consciousness alteration. The structure's precise orientation to cardinal directions and its alignment with specific stars and constellations might have been designed to harness cosmic energies or to synchronize the pyramid's functions with celestial cycles. Ancient traditions often associated specific astronomical configurations with enhanced spiritual or magical effects, suggesting that the pyramid's builders might have understood connections between celestial mechanics and terrestrial energy phenomena. The missing capstone of the Great Pyramid becomes particularly intriguing when the structure is viewed as an energy device. In electrical systems, pointed conductors are often used to focus and direct electrical discharges, creating effects similar to lightning rods or radio antennas. A metallic capstone, possibly made of gold or electrum, could have served as a focal point for electrical energy generated within the pyramid's bulk, creating visible effects that would have enhanced the monument's impressive appearance and possibly served practical purposes as well. The use of the pyramid as a consciousness-altering device finds support in the experiences reported by modern visitors who spend extended time within its chambers. Many people describe unusual psychological states, including vivid visions, altered perceptions of time, and profound spiritual experiences. While these effects might be attributed to psychological factors such as suggestion or claustrophobia, their consistency across different individuals suggests that the pyramid's environment might indeed produce measurable effects on human consciousness. The concept of architectural spaces designed to induce specific psychological or spiritual states appears in many ancient traditions. Temple complexes around the world incorporate features such as specific acoustic properties, lighting effects, and geometric proportions that seem intended to create environments conducive to religious or mystical experiences. The Great Pyramid's austere chambers and passages might represent the ultimate expression of such consciousness-altering architecture. Hermetic and esoteric traditions have long maintained that the Great Pyramid served as an initiation chamber where candidates for spiritual advancement underwent transformative experiences. These traditions describe elaborate rituals involving symbolic death and rebirth, journeys through the pyramid's passages that represented the soul's journey through the afterlife, and encounters with divine knowledge in the pyramid's deepest chambers. While these accounts are often dismissed as fantasy, they might preserve memories of actual practices that utilized the pyramid's unique properties. The possibility that the newly discovered underground complex was part of a ritual circuit adds another dimension to theories about the pyramid's function. If extensive chambers and passages exist beneath the Giza Plateau, they might have served as preparatory spaces where initiates underwent purification and instruction before entering the pyramid itself. The combination of underground waterways, acoustic chambers, and precisely oriented passages could have created a comprehensive system for consciousness transformation that utilized both natural and artificial elements. The relationship between geometric forms and consciousness alteration has been explored by various researchers who suggest that specific proportions and angles can induce measurable changes in brainwave patterns and psychological states. The Great Pyramid's internal geometry incorporates numerous relationships based on sacred mathematical ratios that appear in architectural traditions around the world. These proportions might represent encoded knowledge about the effects of geometric environments on human consciousness. Modern research into the effects of infrasound, acoustic frequencies below the range of human hearing, has revealed that certain low-frequency vibrations can indeed alter consciousness and produce psychological effects including anxiety, euphoria, and the sensation of supernatural presence. The acoustic properties of the Great Pyramid include resonant frequencies in the infrasound range, suggesting that the structure might naturally generate the types of vibrations that affect human consciousness. The electromagnetic environment within the Great Pyramid also differs significantly from that of the surrounding area. The massive stone structure appears to shield its interior from external electromagnetic fields while potentially generating or concentrating internal fields through various mechanisms. Some researchers have suggested that these electromagnetic anomalies could affect the electrical activity of the human brain, potentially inducing altered states of consciousness in people spending time within the pyramid. The precision required to achieve the consciousness-altering effects described in ancient traditions would have demanded not only architectural skill, but also sophisticated understanding of human psychology and physiology. The builders would have needed to understand how environmental factors such as sound, light, electromagnetic fields, and geometric proportions affect human consciousness, knowledge that suggests a remarkably advanced grasp of what we might today call psychoarchitecture. The integration of multiple energy systems within a single structure represents an achievement that would challenge modern engineers and architects. If the Great Pyramid indeed functioned as an acoustic resonator, electrical generator, consciousness alteration device, and astronomical observatory simultaneously, its design would represent a level of interdisciplinary knowledge that far exceeds anything attributed to ancient civilizations by conventional archaeology. Perhaps we have misunderstood the builders not because we lack evidence of their achievements, but because we lack the conceptual framework to comprehend what they created. The pyramid might represent a type of technology that integrates physical, psychological, and spiritual effects in ways that modern science, with its tendency towards specialization and reductionism, struggles to understand. The monument challenges us to expand our definitions of what constitutes a machine and what purposes architecture might serve beyond simple shelter or display. In the darkness of the pyramid's chambers, where ancient stones hold secrets that conventional archaeology has barely begun to explore, we encounter not just a monument to the dead, but possibly a sophisticated instrument designed to transform the living. The true function of this remarkable structure might lie not in any single purpose, but in its integration of multiple technologies and knowledge systems that created something unprecedented in human history, a machine built from mathematics and stone that operated on principles we are only now beginning to rediscover. As the last light of day fades over the Giza Plateau and the ancient stones settle into their eternal vigil beneath a canopy of stars, we find ourselves at the end of one journey and the beginning of countless others. The story we have followed, from the controversial radar discoveries of March 2025 to the deepest mysteries of consciousness and cosmic connection, reminds us that every answer we uncover in the shadow of the pyramids reveals new questions waiting in the darkness below. The chambers that may or may not exist beneath our feet, the waters that flow through hidden channels carved in living rock, the echoes of ancient rituals that might still resonate through passages older than recorded history all speak to a fundamental truth about human existence. We are creatures driven by curiosity, compelled to seek meaning in the monuments left by those who came before us, forever reaching toward mysteries that seem to recede like mirages in the desert, always promising revelation just beyond our grasp. Whether the underground complex detected by synthetic aperture radar represents the Hall of Records prophesied by Edgar Cayce, a natural formation misinterpreted by hopeful researchers, or something entirely unexpected that defies our current categories of understanding, its very possibility transforms our relationship with the past. The ground beneath the pyramids becomes not solid earth but a realm of infinite potential where every grain of sand might conceal evidence that could rewrite the story of human civilization. In these moments of quiet contemplation, when the tourist crowds have departed and the desert wind carries whispers of ancient secrets across the plateau, we sense that the true mystery of Giza extends far beyond any single discovery or theory. The pyramids continue to challenge us not simply because they are old or large or precisely built, but because they embody questions that strike at the heart of what it means to be human. Who were we? What did we know? What capabilities have we lost or forgotten? What possibilities await rediscovery in the depths of our own consciousness? The technologies that revealed glimpses of hidden chambers, synthetic aperture radar, muon tomography, ground-penetrating radar, represent humanity's latest attempt to pierce the veils that separate us from our past. Each scan, each measurement, each algorithmic analysis brings us closer to answers while simultaneously revealing the vastness of what remains unknown. We have learned to see through solid rock, to detect the whispers of cosmic rays, to map the invisible architecture of the Earth itself, yet the deepest mysteries continue to elude our most sophisticated instruments. Perhaps this is as it should be. The pyramids have guarded their secrets for over 4 millennia, watching empires rise and fall, witnessing the birth of religions and the evolution of human consciousness. They have survived floods and earthquakes, invasions and excavations, treasure hunters and tourists, maintaining their silent presence through every transformation of the world around them. In their endurance, they remind us that some truths cannot be rushed, some revelations cannot be forced, some mysteries unfold only when humanity is ready to receive them. The water that flows beneath the desert, connecting the monuments to Egypt's life-giving river and perhaps to underground systems that span continents, suggests that the pyramids were never isolated monuments, but part of a vast network of sacred sites that our ancestors understood in ways we are only beginning to rediscover. The astronomical alignments that connect these earthbound structures to celestial movements hint at knowledge systems that saw no separation between the terrestrial and the cosmic, between the material and the spiritual, between the human and the divine. If the chambers that radar has detected truly exist, if they contain the records and artifacts that legend promises, their discovery will mark not an ending, but a beginning. The knowledge they might contain would pose new questions about the development of human civilization, the extent of ancient capabilities, and the possibility that we are not the first generation to achieve technological sophistication. Such revelations would challenge us to expand our understanding of progress, to consider that human development might follow cycles rather than straight lines, that wisdom and capability might have been lost and regained multiple times throughout our species' long journey. Yet even if the chambers prove to be illusions, products of hopeful interpretation rather than hidden reality, the questions they have raised retain their importance. The search for hidden knowledge, for connections to ancient wisdom, for evidence that our ancestors possessed capabilities we have forgotten, reflects deeper human needs that transcend any particular discovery. We seek not just information about the past, but guidance for the future, not just data about ancient technologies, but inspiration for facing contemporary challenges. The pyramid as machine, as consciousness-altering device, as acoustic instrument, as energy generator, challenges our assumptions about the purposes that architecture can serve and the knowledge that ancient builders might have possessed. These theories, whether ultimately proven or disproven, expand our conception of what human beings are capable of achieving when guided by profound understanding of natural laws and cosmic principles. They suggest that the boundary between technology and spirituality, between science and mysticism, might be more permeable than modern thinking typically acknowledges. In the darkness below our feet, something waits. It might be chambers filled with ancient treasures and forgotten wisdom. It might be natural caverns carved by patient water over geological ages. It might be the physical manifestation of human hopes and dreams, given form by our collective desire to believe that somewhere, somehow, the answers to our deepest questions have been preserved. Or it might be something entirely unexpected, a discovery that transforms our understanding in ways we cannot yet imagine. The stars that wheel overhead, the same constellations that guided the pyramid builders in their astronomical observations, continue their eternal dance without regard for human theories or archaeological controversies. They have witnessed the rise and fall of countless civilizations, the asking and answering of infinite questions, the birth and death of empires and individuals alike. In their light, our current debates about chamber discoveries and ancient capabilities seem both momentous and ephemeral, crucial to our immediate understanding, yet insignificant in the vast scope of cosmic time. What lies beneath the pyramids may not just be stone or water or treasure, but a window into the unknown that reveals as much about ourselves as about our ancestors. In our eagerness to unlock ancient secrets, we discover that the greatest mysteries reside not in hidden chambers, but in the depths of human consciousness itself. The pyramids serve as mirrors that reflect our own capabilities and limitations, our dreams and fears, our endless capacity for wonder, and our eternal quest for meaning. The ground beneath Giza still holds secrets, of this we can be certain. Whether they are the secrets we expect to find or revelations that surpass our wildest speculations remains to be seen. The journey toward understanding continues, guided by the same curiosity and determination that drove the pyramid builders to create monuments that would inspire awe and wonder for thousands of years after their own civilization had passed into legend. Perhaps the greatest secret of all is that the mystery itself is the message. In creating structures that would perplex and inspire future generations, the builders of Giza ensured that the human quest for knowledge would continue, that each generation would bring new tools and perspectives to bear on eternal questions, that the conversation between past and present would never end. The pyramids stand not just as monuments to ancient achievement, but as invitations to ongoing discovery, challenges that call us to expand our understanding of what human beings can accomplish when guided by vision, knowledge, and profound connection to the cosmos. And perhaps in the darkness below our feet, in the silence of hidden chambers that may or may not exist, in the whisper of water flowing through channels carved by ancient hands, that conversation continues still, waiting for the moment when we possess not just the technology to hear it, but the wisdom to understand what it has been trying to tell us all along.